Isn't Cecily adorable? Really, she is just such a cutie pie. Where I live in the Tampa Bay area, she used to be one of the lead newscasters on Channel 13, Fox 13. Then she moved to Orlando and she was a newscaster there. And now the Lord just has her all over the place. She just did an incredible conference with Bishop Jake's daughter. And she is just filled with joy, and God's using her tremendously. So today I'm very excited about the gentleman that God has brought. He is going to encourage you. He is going to bless you. And he's going to unpack your divine calling, your identity. You know, we're not all cookie cutters as believers. And the Lord assigns us to different places and spaces, different mountains to influence the culture, to take back ground for our King and to put the devil on notice. And he has certainly lived that life. Obviously, he has a brilliant brain because he works with numbers. The only thing I like about numbers is the book and the Bible. But he is right in the middle of Wall Street. He's an advisor. He helps charities. He has a vocational calling, but he also pastors, which I love that as well. So would you welcome my new friend, Pastor Peter Roselle. Thank you so much for being here today.
Great. Thanks for having us.
Well, your wife is adorable.
I agree.
And you did good. You did good. She did good.
Married up.
Yeah. So you guys have a great kingdom calling. I feel like between the two of you, you are covering and hitting so many bases.
Thank you.
I know to whom much is given, much is required.
Right.
And he obviously forgave you much, and you feel a great responsibility to shine your light.
Yes, true.
Okay, so Pastor Peter, tell us about your salvation story.
Sure. We were raised in northern New Jersey, which is a heavy Catholic, Roman Catholic area. Nothing against any denominations, but we weren't really encouraged to read the Bible. So I drifted from that as a teenager. I was a football player, captain of the team, had a scholarship, so I was living that fast life of sin. Didn't know it because I didn't know there was another way to live. And my family had a very big trucking business where everybody went. My grandfather started it and everybody went into the trucking business. So that was the career path. So going to college, it was just assumed that that's what I would do. So I wasn't really focusing too much on the schoolwork and a lot on the partying. And the devil's just a really good liar. He had convinced me that that was going to be fine. My mother became a born-again Christian through the Catholic Charismatic movement, and we all thought she had gone off the deep end at the time because all she would talk about was Jesus, and we were like, well, what about all the other stuff? Because we didn't know the Bible. We weren't encouraged to read the Bible. And then we had a terrible tragedy in our family where my father's brother was murdered, and basically the rug got pulled out from under my life, which happens, it seems, to a lot of people, that they think life is going to go one way, and now there's a hard turn that you weren't expecting, and I wasn't really equipped emotionally to know how to handle the trauma that I was facing. And I don't use that word trauma lightly. It really was, for me at least. And that sent me even spiraling further down into more drugs because I had no way to deal with the pain I was feeling. So I medicated the pain, which is a terrible strategy, but a common strategy that the enemy uses. And it was through my mother's witness to me in the middle of that pain that 40 years ago, this January 1st, which is coming up soon as we record this, that was when I finally, in my kitchen, made a decision, as she had a preacher on cable TV very conveniently. She had arranged it that I would walk in the kitchen and this man named David Toma would be speaking into the camera and asking me what I was doing with my life. It could have been that I was the only person watching.
Wow.
It seemed like he was talking just to me. And that was a long list of links in the chain of people that had witnessed to me. And now finally I was ready to say yes. I had hit my rock bottom and I said yes. And thankfully never really looked back. My mother was a great example. I was still living home at the time. And she taught me a lot about the Bible, got me going to church. And then I did it because I wanted to, not just because she was bringing me. But I knew that I went all in for the enemy. And now I had to go all in for the Lord. And then it's not that hard if you want to help. Like you said, you're happy that you're not doing that old lifestyle anymore. So you don't want to go back to it. So you get busy about the Father's business, even though you don't know that much. But you can always be valuable somewhere as a servant, as a volunteer somewhere. So that's how I got started.
That's amazing.
Yeah. It was great.
I didn't know just till you spoke it.
Mm-hmm.
I too got radically born again through Christian television.
Oh, wow.
In my grandmother's living room.
Wow.
And so I think you're the third person that I've met in the last 6 months that's been the story.
Yeah.
And so the value of Christian television, it's so important, so important for viewers.
Right.
Because, many that are listening, you might be praying for a family member and you think they're going to get saved in an altar or in a church, but there's something about being in the privacy of your own home or living room or kitchen, and the power of a praying mom, the power of a praying grandmother. So I love that.
And one plants and other waters, God gives the increase. So he'll use all these different spokes of ways to reach our heart.
Yeah, he will. So at that time, you start volunteering, you've had a radical lifestyle change, you're about the Father's business. And how did you meet your wife? How did God speak to you all to open the King of Kings Worship Center? It's very different. I call it a new wineskin church. It's not typical or traditional. Not everybody, mailbox lukewarm Christians are not going to feel comfortable there for very long initially.
Hopefully it grows
but they'll
on.
stay. Yes. So continue the journey.
The hard thing was the career piece, because if you live up to the age of 23 thinking you're going to do one thing and you go all the way through college and you're not really paying as much attention as you should have been, it's a little late to have to get started again. So that was really an important thing, because I knew if I wanted to raise a family, I really wanted it to be where my wife wouldn't have to work. And that's not so easy in the Northeast if you want to own a home, and all of the things that were true then are still true now. So that was a lot of soul searching. What did I want to do? What were the opportunities available to me? And it was really just trial and error and trying different things and working very hard. That was the one good thing about the trucking business and Italian work ethic, as you know, because we both have that similar upbringing. There's one way, and if you're going to do it, you have to do it that one way, which is the right way.
And 20-hour days, one way, 20-hour days.
And you'll keep doing it until you pass the test, basically. So that was great. And I do really honor and respect my family for teaching me all of those values. Sports was also very good about teaching values of hard work and teamwork and relationships. So I did find a way to do that. And the career that I chose allowed me to have ministry as well, which most careers really don't allow you to make enough money to be the sole breadwinner and also do ministry. But that was just the Lord's hand, I think, on it. And that speaks to us knowing what our gifts are and seeking those out. And your identity in Christ is the only way to find out what those gifts are, because it really helps if you're not only good at what you do, but that you really like it. And that's not always the case. Some people just work a job to make money. And I'm saying this for a reason, because that's what we're talking about today, is that, how can you do both well? And it takes some real guidance from the Lord to get you in the right place. So going to church in just a local church that my family had told me about, that made me feel good that they knew it and they trusted it, because I didn't really know how to distinguish between the churches. And it was really just a smaller community church, Bible-believing, Pentecostal, which was great, because we needed that coming out of the drug scene. Yeah. We needed the fire of the Holy Spirit. We weren't going to make it, really. Neither one of us would have made it in a lukewarm kind of an atmosphere. It had to be fiery. Because both Tricia and I came from that kind of rebellious side of the aisle, and we needed a firm hand, which really helped us a lot. And then she came as a visitor to the church that I was going to and gave a testimony just kind of randomly on a Friday night. There was a young adults meeting, and she talked about this ministry she had in New York City, and she was the woman she was with was preaching on the top of a car with a bullhorn, and they were handing out tracts, and people were getting saved. And I had worked in New York City too. I'm like, I never saw that. I'd love to go to that. So I went up to her afterwards and said, that was amazing. And do you think I could ever come? And she said, no. Basically, I didn't give her the time of day. She thought it was a pickup line. You were flirting, right? No, I don't even think that. She had enough sense to know I was new, didn't know what I was talking about,
Yeah.
and then I would have been in over my head if I had tried to do that. So she basically said no, and I understood, kind of. And just then I made sure that the next time I saw her, I got close enough so she didn't forget me. And eventually I wore her down, I think.
Good
And
job. Good
I
job.
invited her to go to an event. Her friends were supposed to come, and they didn't. Another one of those divine appointments, I hope. And we ended up starting to date after that, even though she didn't try to introduce me to a couple of her friends first. She was praying for somebody else. And just, when people fall in love with the idea of marriage before they fall in love with God, and that's a big mistake
Yeah.
too. And we both had that separately, that we wanted this relationship to be right. And if you're seeking a godly person, be a godly person.
There you go.
Then they're going to want to seek him through you, and that's what happened. She was saved before I was, so she had already had a good handle on the word, and I really respected that. And she's, like I was saying, one way. She's
Yeah.
all in.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted. I didn't want somebody who was wishy-washy.